Everyone, it's Spicy Sushi. So it has been 3 long leagues since I released my day 1 endless heist guide, or infinite heist, whatever you want to call it. This is a very popular method among players, including me, to build up a lot of currency early league. Now, this currency can be used for a variety of things, which is why the strategy is so versatile. But it has been a while since I released it, and I get DMs constantly asking, what is infinite heist? How do you do infinite heist? And even though I do link the videos, it is so far back. And to be fair, the video is really scuffed, to be honest. It's super long for no reason. I talk really boringly, so I understand why people just don't like the video anymore as well. But the purpose of this video is actually not to cover Endless Heist. I will do a very quick overview on people who just want to know what it is, but I do recommend checking out my video if you want the specifics. This video's purpose is actually going to be covering my early game strategy, which is something I have never made a video on, and that is early blueprint farming. I'm talking like day 2, day 3, day 4, farming blueprints in a Path of Exile trade economy. So that's the purpose here. Unfortunately, I don't really have a lot of time this league to edit because we are literally like 2 days before the league starts, and I decided just to nerd out, and I wrote like a 7-page Google document covering 3 chapters on heist farming early league. So hopefully you can forgive me. I'm gonna have some gameplay playing, but unfortunately, I can't just spend like 10 hours plus editing like I did for the last video. I really got to get some content out before the league starts. Hopefully you can understand. But yeah, so this is going to be a very generic, like, Path of Exile, one takes, PowerPoint meta, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, let's go ahead and cover Chapter A, Day 1 Endless Heist, the typical early raw currency farm. Now, it doesn't have to be endless, it's just called endless, but heist can be done in 2 ways, Day 1. You can go endless, or you can just do it right before Katava, collecting contracts. Now, I do recommend checking out the last video for a more detailed method, but I will do a too long didn't watch for people that don't want to go watch the video. Now, starting at level 58 to 62, you want to start traveling to the Rogue's Harbor every single level. You need at least 1 rogue marker, and you want to focus on lockpicking contracts. Just type in like LOCKP or something into the vendor, and you want to get these first. Now, there's a lot of people that don't understand why you go at 58. This is when double reward rooms unlock. You know, some people think that you shouldn't go until Chaos Recipe is possible from the monsters, which is definitely not at 58. But the thing is that you need to get chance orbs, because if you get to the point where contracts start getting really juicy with Chaos Recipe and you don't have enough chance orbs when you go to the vendor, you're going to be really depressed, because there's going to be a lot of contracts on the window and you're going to be sad that you couldn't buy them. So that's why we start early at 58. If you can, you could go as far as 60, but I definitely recommend at 58, go buy some lock picking and leave, go back to the campaign, you know, every level, travel back, get lock picking until around 60 to 61, and then I would probably run some lock picking contracts and start buying Demolition as much as you possibly can, lock picking as well because it's decent, but keep in mind that Demolition is absolutely broken because of the miscellaneous chests. These chests are miscellaneous chests because you're not in maps yet when they get turned into delirium reward chests. Before then, pre-maps in campaign, they have extremely high weightings for raw chaos, uniques, sometimes cluster jewels. They are so far above the other contracts that some people, including me, like to prioritize them over anything else. So but you know, if you're doing this before Katava, you'll want to at least still just get demo and lockpicking, but make sure you buy all the demo. You don't want to buy lockpicking before demo when you go to the vendor. Make sure you're not leaving any Demolition behind. But obviously, don't stress out. If you can't buy them all, it's not a big deal. Don't worry. It's a video game. We're playing for fun. If you miss out on a little bit of efficiency, who cares, right? But some contracts will cost alchemy orbs. You can just ignore these. It's perfectly fine. But anyway, right before killing Katava, you're going to run these. You're going to do your 3rd labyrinth before doing this, because you want to be at a pretty good player power so that these are efficient, even if you're not playing a fast build. It should take only an hour, maybe more. Any build can do this, because Arch Nemesis is a bit difficult, but it's not too bad as long as you're res capped and you have some adequate layers of defense, like, for example, Determination, Grace, etc. A decoy totem is really going to help you out. If for some reason you're just really squishy, get a decoy totem and you should be fine. Now, last league it was a bit harder because Arch Nemesis monsters were so brutally difficult from GGG, but after the nerf it should be okay. Even last league, once I got some layers of evasion and armor, I really didn't even notice the difficulty anymore. But early end league it can be kind of rough, like early day 1. But yeah, that is that method. And now let's go over endless. All right, next up in chapter 1, we're going to cover going endless, or infinite heist, as some say. This is going to start when you get to Blood Aqueducts instead of at 58 through 60, because it really doesn't matter. Since you're going to be going infinite anyway, you're not really, you don't have a time constraint like people doing it right before Katava. But before we get into this, we really do want to consider why you are doing this strategy, because this is a locked-in chaos per hour. It does not scale with like Exalt or Divine value. It will never go up. You know, so it'll actually go down in value since chaos loses value later on when, you know, like maybe a divine orb shoots up in value. So let's kind of go over this. Because, for example, blueprints are going to start making like 300 to 400 plus chaos per hour by like hour 9 through 12 of the league. That's just like a complete shot in the dark. It might even be lower. I'm just trying to provide you an example, you know, to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. But, you know, like Atlas progression can beat this immediately after completing and setting up your Atlas for sure. So you miss out on the lead mechanic if it's fun as well. But it is a very nice strategy, since if you want to go into Simulacrum, Blight, or Bossing, like if you don't need to do the Atlas at all, this is a really good strategy. Or if you have a build that is very expensive but the uniques are really cheap early on, you could snipe up those uniques in the first 10 hours of the league, maybe even first 20 hours of the league, and be able to get those as well. But also it can be used as an investing angle. If you don't even have a build that you're trying to put together, if you want to buy up a lot of a certain item like a divination card or like delirium orbs or something, you could easily triple to 4 times your money by doing this, since if you are farming 150 plus chaos per hour and you get maybe 10 exalts or something in like 5 hours, or if you get like 20 exalts in like 10 hours and you invest all of that in the first 12 to 13 hours of the league, and you wake up the next day or in 3 or 4 days and you've tripled that money, that is a situation where I could see it being pretty useful just from investing point of view. So you know, it's very important to consider why you're doing this, because you know, you'd usually be better off doing something else unless you have a specific goal in mind. Now, Demolition is obviously going to be your priority. Lockpicking and Perception are very far second. Basically, people that go endless usually can infinitely sustain only Demolition, and this is usually what you want to do, because it's just so much more raw chaos. Early, you do need to do lockpicking because chance orbs are not cheap on trade, but once chance orbs are like 14 chance orbs per chaos or 20 per chaos, that is when you can just run demo only and just buy chance orbs to sustain your contract buying. Brute force could potentially be strong, but I don't think it can really compare to Demolition, even with the unique changes. Maybe it can, but also it's important to talk about that you must have a fast build for this, or this is going to be a complete waste of time, honestly, if you're doing it for a long period of time. Raider is going to be automatically fast. You're going to have no issues with that because of permanent onslaught effect, phasing, maybe frenzy charges for movement speed, all that kind of stuff. But typically builds will get a Queen of the Forest build. Like my Witch this league, I'm doing a Queen of the Forest Witch, since with Explosive Arrow, I'm going to be pathing towards the Ranger side anyway, and my POB is at like over 350% movement speed currently. But definitely focus a bit on rogue gear so that you can be getting some benefit from the long period of time that you're spending there. If you don't have enough rogue markers, you don't need to complete every contract. This is the first tip I want to go over. For example, super long contracts that look like a pain, you can just open the 2 big chests and head out as long as you have rogue markers to keep going. Since you aren't doing blueprints with this method, the rogue markers literally don't matter, like I've said here, but I recommend practicing this before Leaguestart, because I do get complaints from some people that are going endless that they're not getting close to the profit per hour, but in reality, it's all about time and efficiency. If a demo contract is at 6 chaos per, when you're including raw plus recipe, 30 demo is already 180 C per hour, and 30 demolition contracts per hour is not actually hard to run at all, because that's only 2 minutes per contract, and if you're playing a build with over 300% movement speed and you're taking longer than like 3 or 4 minutes to do a contract, that is definitely a problem. And I think you need to do some practice before you move into a method like this, since I think you'd be better off doing something else. If you're only able to do like 15 contracts per hour, then I would not say this method would be great to do for like extended periods of time. But increasing your rogue harbor speed is amazing. That's another tip. Like permanent onslaught through Raider or Thrill Steel is really good. Having good movement speed boots. But then I have the investing thing down here. I already covered this, so there's no point here. So that's all I want to cover here. There is one more tip. Oh yeah, the decoy totem and frostwall tech is really good for speeding this up. And I think that's about it. All right, everyone, so let's quickly go over Chapter B, which is Chaos Recipe. This is a very hotly debated topic when it comes to this method because it does make up like 30% of the income. And a lot of people call it a meme simply because it relies on chaos recipe, since a lot of people see it as an inefficient money-making method early league. But the reality is that chaos recipe is really not inefficient at all, especially in endless heist. People just don't really know exactly how to do it correctly. Now, to do it correctly, you should pick up rares only when it's not intrusive or inefficient. You can tell if it's inintrusive or inefficient if you're getting annoyed by having to like backtrack or something and go back for rares or look at the rares. You don't want to be doing that. The perfect time, for example, is when you're waiting for a demolition chest to drop the chaos orbs out of it. There's going to be rares falling out of it, and you have to wait for the chaos orbs to come out, and that's a perfect time just to be clicking on all those rares that are dropping. Same with like lockpicking contracts or anything else when you are just running by small chests as well. Like when you click a small chest and a chaos orb pops out, there's a rare right there, and you can just pick up both with 2 easy clicks since you are literally right there. Anyway. Now, the big thing, though, is that you really need to have a Chaos Recipe Enhancer or a similar tool, or you will probably hate yourself because, I mean, that's just the reality of Path of Exile. Third-party tools make the game infinitely easier and more quality of life. A lot of people have issues with Chaos Recipe Enhancer because I'll admit it is a bit clunky and confusing, so I'm going to have a video up today on how to use it, how to set it up, and all that, just so people can reference that. So that's all I want to say on Chapter B, though. Very small chapter. Let's go ahead and move into the main part of this video, which is going to be early league blueprint farming. Alright guys, now it's time to cover my strategy for this league, which is going to be endless heist into blueprints. I have a table of contents because there's a lot of parts of this. This is going to be much more complicated than the previous strategy that we talked about because there's a lot of layers to this, and that's why I have the table of contents. That's why I've tried to go over it as much as I can in the guide here. I've gotten it proofread, so hopefully it's good to go. Now, you can do this right after farming reveals, or you can go complete your atlas like me to set up my grand design farm, which is not viable until like day 3 or day 4. So I'm going to go do blueprints while I'm waiting for that strategy to become viable. Like basically viable is that I'm waiting for the market to become more mature so that I can buy like scarab, sextants, everything I need. So for this, we start in Blood Aqueducts. We're basically going to be doing the normal endless strategy at the very start because we need to get some currency for gear to start doing some of the harder reveal-based contracts. Now, if you're doing high item level blueprints, just like a tip at the start, you probably want to make sure, like with the gear, you're gonna have like spell suppression, ailment, immunity, evasion, armor, frostwall, decoy, totem, all this good stuff is good to have for high item level blueprints. If you're doing blueprints right after reveals, this is definitely important because if you don't want to be dying in your blueprint on the way out, if you have, a lot of loot on you, that's going to be really sad. So the unlock order for the reveal farming approach is you're going to run Karst for Huck, Huck for Niles, Niles for Vendiri, Vendiri for Gianna, and then these 3 for the blueprint part of it. You can just do this at any point. So, all right, let's go over the contract priority. Now, this is kind of weird. This is going to be a lot more complicated than the contract priority for the raw currency method, since this time we are doing reveals, but we also need to get currency to sustain buying those reveal contracts. And also we need currency to set up a quick build to be able to get through these contracts, because perception is going to be kind of annoying to do if you don't have a pretty decent build at this point. Deception is obviously the best contract in the game for farming reveals, but they are pretty rare, so you're not just going to be able to just farm deception only. So your first copy paste is going to be lockpicking and demo, because we just need currency to set up a build to make reveals a bit easier. And then once you have, you're using lockpicking for chance orbs, demo for the main currency, or this is for jewelry if you don't have enough jewelry for the chaos recipe. Your second copy paste is going to be lockpicking for chance orbs still, deception and counter thaumaturgy. You're just going to try to ignore the demo a little bit at this point. We'll pick up demo later, but the next copy paste is just going to be, we're going to be farming deception, counter thaumaturgy. We have our build set up from this part, and we're using lock picking only if we get desperate for chance orbs. Now the later copy paste, maybe like, let's say, I don't know, hour 8 through 10 of the league, when chance orbs are maybe 14 chance orbs per chaos, you can do demo, deception, perception, because since demo drops like a bunch of chaos per map, you could just buy chance orbs off trade with chaos, and then you don't have to worry about doing lock picking since they're pretty low value compared to demo. Demo is just insanely overpowered when it comes to currency making, so this is why we just prioritize this, just buy the chance orbs, and then deception priority number 1, perception priority number 2. Like I said, demo for this, then CT, and then lock picking if you're just absolutely desperate. This should not really be happening though. It should just be these 4. Usually these 2 is what you want to focus on if you can. Now, You want to level up these rogues. We're going to use Gianna on Deception and Counter Thaumaturgy to level 5 and 3, Vendiri and Demo to level 5, Karst and Lockpicking if you need to do Lockpicking to sustain Chance Orbs. Now, the reason we don't level up the other rogues is because you're just going to cherry pick your blueprints early on and do the blueprints that only require level 1 of a rogue that you're not leveled in, because this is going to be way faster than leveling them in contracts. Blueprints are going to give them so many more levels very quickly, so it's better just to wait until blueprints to level the other rogues. So why Gianna? Deception is very fast. There's no doors on the way out. You discover a blueprint reveal upon completion, and she gives immense reveal cost reduction, like 40% once you have 40-45 once you have a disguise kit +1, and this is going to make it so you don't have to spend many rogue markers, because you're going to realize this is the main point of the blueprint. Like, this is the main thing to know about the blueprint early method, is that you are going to struggle with rogue markers. I think earlier in testing I did, like, let's see, 4 blueprints, 4 or 5, and I tried to be a bit liberal with my reveals, and boom, I was like down like 75k rogue markers in no time. So you will need to complete nearly every contract while farming to get some. With over 200 reveals, you'll probably get around 50k, which is really nothing. So you will need to probably buy markers off trade a lot. And so this is where the annoyance is gonna come from. I'm going to cover blueprint priority when it comes to, or I'm going to cover reveal priority, but the reality is that most early blueprint farmers, if you're doing it right after farming reveals, you're probably not going to be revealing literally anything other than the wing itself to rush to the final room. Because the other reveal, the other rooms are just not going to be worth the rogue markers, because they're not going to give you enough out of it. Now, unique rewards could be good, but we'll cover that later, all right? But yeah, keep in mind, most early heist farmers skip revealing rooms since the cost is so high versus the reward early. But you know what? This is a league where heist is on the map device, so maybe it'll be pretty cheap this league. We'll see. 6 chaos is quite a lot, though. I'll just say that. I don't know if a lot of people are going to be paying 6 chaos. But anyway, blueprint priority, replica is number 1. You're not only going to be getting replica uniques that some are very valuable, you're going to be getting the good early bases like an alternating scepter. And then trinkets and currency, this is going to be solid currency per wing. If you're not really familiar with replicas, like which ones be valuable, if it's going to take you a long time, you're mainly just going to focus on trinkets and currency, because early league you can get like 7-8 chaos out of these boxes at the end. You can just rush to the end and then maybe pick up a few reward rooms if they're open, and then you can also maybe get a really good trinket. I actually got this when I was doing a practice run yesterday, which is absurd. I got the Regal Orb to drop as a Divine Orb, and then I got the Heist to drop as Elder Influence, which is really good in higher item level blueprints for farming Elder items. But yeah, so this is what I recommend for most newer players, that if they want to do this, but they don't know much about replicas. But you could still do replicas for the, the bases like Alternating Scepter, Pneumatic Dagger. Now, unusual gems, you probably won't want to mess with this at all. 80% of these are usually worthless early league and won't even get better until quite a bit later. There's obviously some that stand out, like Divergent, Inspiration, but it requires a lot of prior game knowledge. And so, if the reward is less than 10 to 20 chaos, it's usually better just to leave if the escape is far away, so you don't have to go through the lockdown. Frostwall, Decoy Totem are your best friend. Now, reveal priority is, I would recommend uniques this league, possibly. Now, these are all pretty not important when it comes to rogue markers. This one is the only one I'm kind of interested in. It probably still won't be worth it with rogue marker costs. If you're spending like 400 rogue markers for these rooms and you only have like 50k from farming up your reveals, you're going to run out of rogue markers exceptionally fast. And so unless you can buy them off of trade easily, which I will be able to since I'm doing it like Saturday or Sunday, but you might not want to do any of this. But this is good to keep in mind. Most early heist farmers will just not reveal these small rooms and just rush to the end, though. Just make sure the wing is revealed, basically. Since keep in mind, revealing a ring might be like 2,300 rogue markers average or something like that with Gianna. Now, trinkets, you do want to get a good trinket, or not a good trinket, but a decent trinket probably. So you want to focus on some trinket blueprints first. Now, some good examples are these. I pulled this from the cheat sheet. You can go over this because I'll have the video in the sheet in the description, cover all this. Rogue gear is very important. You want to be collecting up rogue gear. Like I said earlier, a +1 disguise kit, not just +1 character level. I'm talking about level of jobs. Her job level needs to be level 6 for the highest reduction. That would be great to get if you can get that rogue gear early on. But here's some examples of others. Some reduction to cost is a really big deal, honestly, because rogue markers are going to be your bottleneck for this early blueprint farm, though. So hopefully this sheet helps you out. I'll be doing this all the first weekend, so you can definitely follow me on Twitch and keep up with me doing it then. If you need any help, any questions, this is going to be pretty chill farm, so I'll be looking at Twitch chat a lot, and I can help you guys out there easily. So I will see you guys in the next video, which is going to be the how to use the chaos recipe tool.